Hi, good evening. I certainly hope I have sound this week, which I didn't the other week. If anybody is out there and knows that I have sound, and you could send me a thumbs up or something in a post, that would be great. But I'm going to assume I do. And I want to take a moment tonight to ground us and to settle us in where we're at in regard to this space and this time. So this is July 19th, 2020, and I hope that you are having a good month and a good July. And if anybody out there could let me know that you can hear me and that my sound is okay, that would be fabulous. But anyway, okay, so I'm just going to assume go with it. So I want to say the other night, and I should learn never to post anything at midnight as I'm sobbing, but when I heard about the death of John Lewis, I was, it was late. I was just about ready for bed, and I was just absolutely so devastated, and for a reason. John Lewis has become for me, over the years of my teaching, he has become someone that he showed up in film after film. I teach gender courses and race courses and intersectionally, whatever topic was being addressed, whatever was talking about injustice against any group, there would be John Lewis being interviewed again in a film. And so that space of just who he has become to me as a leader, and just I want to take a minute and talk about America as I have known it, and about America as I hope you are helping visualize with me, but as about an America that doesn't feel like how it feels right now. And, growing up in the era in which I grew up, the civil rights movement was active and on the evening news and was there and was, part of that reality for me and was affecting my thoughts and my perceptions of life. Also, there was something I was very much a reader as a child, but also there was being communicated with me a vision of an America that had a constitution, in which citizens had constitutional rights, in which there was just that knowing that there was this kind of forward motion of progress, and I became aware, because of the time I was coming of age, not only of the pressing into rights of the civil rights movement for African Americans, but that wave of women's rights activism and the LGBT wave of activism that was rising up at the end of the 60s and into the 70s, and just that space of becoming aware of our social movements and of our pressing into that demand for equity and for truth in America. And it felt to me like there was an underlying morality in the world. The quote from Martin Luther King about the arc of the moral universe being long but bending toward justice, that felt true in America. I'm speaking, of course, as somebody who had the privilege of being white. I had the disprivilege of being female and the disprivilege of being gay, but I had, that's something, clearly I was growing up in a white America, and I was not being treated the way our, people are telling us and pointing out to us in the Black Lives Matter movement and the very real racial inequities. But I was watching those racial inequities being addressed on the evening news. And, my heart and the heart of many people around me was going out to the struggle that we were seeing and resonating with that. And so John Lewis was such a part of that, was such a part of, fighting that good fight. As I was writing in my post, he got arrested 40 times before he was in the House of Representatives, and then arrested 5 times after he was a representative. And just, 4 years ago, after the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting, when gay people all across the country knew what the hate crime of that, right? So things that happen against your particular people group, a group you're part of, resonate as a hate crime because they resonate out to who you are. In 2016, shortly after the election, there were a lot of Jewish cemeteries vandalized in the Philadelphia area where I live, headstones being knocked over in just great numbers, not just a little bit, but some real concerted anti-Semitism playing out in this space. And that we fought for the hate crime law, from the murder of Matthew Shepard and the murder of James Burke Jr., who was killed at random for being black, and Matthew killed for being gay. But those murders led to our fight for a Hate Crimes Act that was signed in 2009, if I remember correctly, by President Obama. But these murders lately, the murder of George Floyd is a hate crime. Was a hate crime. The murders that we're watching are hate crimes. The almost complete probability that the suicides in the public parks from trees are actually lynchings, and these are hate crimes. And the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting was a hate crime against LGBTQ people. And so in the midst of that, there was the Democrats in the House of Representatives were fighting for the chance to vote on a gun reform law, and the Republicans were dominating the House that year. Paul Ryan was the Speaker of the House, not Nancy Pelosi, and Paul Ryan wouldn't let that bill come to the floor for a vote. And so John Lewis, at 76 years old, sat down. I watched him do it then, but there's also film footage of him doing it in his 76-year-old body, which, was a little on the round side, was going down kind of sideways to the floor. And you're thinking, what are your knees doing at 76 as you get down there? But he began and led the sit-in that was followed. The Democratic National Caucus sat on that floor, and they occupied the floor, the literal floor of the House of Representatives for 25 hours, demanding the right to vote on that bill, which did not pass. But still, the effort of that, he was always fighting that good fight and fighting for everyone. And, in this space, it feels like that America in a kind of, in the natural, is trying to slip away from us, the kind of America where there are leaders who fight for justice at that level. And of course, he was 80. I did not know the work of Reverend C.T. Vivian in the same way, but not aware of it. He didn't show up in my videos for class in the same level, but that, he was still out there fighting that good fight. And, there are people who are a generation that has come into their 80s and their 90s, and they're like going home. They are leaving here behind, having fought the good fight, having run the race, and they're leaving us behind. But we're really not, I'm not ready to let some of them go. And I hope with me you are praying for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And, we need these people still. We need their leadership and guidance. Some of the piece of this pandemic that's been particularly egregious has just been the attitude that, it's the old people dying and who needs them. And actually, whatever age people are, you all need us and those older than us. These people are valuable, or treasure troves of wisdom and experience. And not everybody who's old has Alzheimer's. Not everybody who's old is cognitively checked out. There are a good many people. Noam Chomsky's still out there in his 90s teaching classes and, and speaking publicly. There are people out there still leading and doing a good job of that leadership, and people should be judged on their leadership and not their age. Mary Trump's book came out this week, and we will get to our visualization in a moment. But her book came out, and interviews, of her about her book came out. And she's talked a couple of times in two interviews that I've heard. I'm sure she's done it more, but she's talked about her grandfather, Fred Trump, Donald's father. She's talked about Fred Trump's toxic adherence to positive thinking. And, she's talked about the way in which he followed the teachings of Norman Vincent Peale, but in a way that caused him to be callow and callous, and to forbid his sons to have feelings, and to forbid his family to express empathy or sympathy with anyone in any sort of trouble. And so she's talked about how when her father was dying, Fred Trump Jr., was dying, how Fred Trump Sr., her grandfather, was dishonest about the state her father was in and discouraging of people to bother going visiting him, and how he died alone in the hospital, and not during the COVID crisis when no one could be with him, but when family could have been with him and when he could have had various forms of help, that they were deprived because Fred Trump had this toxic adherence to positive thinking in a way that gave him, that forbid him to allow anyone their feelings. I'm not teaching that, and my experience with manifesting is not that. My experience with manifesting is that we have the range of our human experience and our emotions, and whatever it is we're going through is absolutely, things are real. We need to feel them. We need to mourn them. I've been doing some readings lately for YouTube from my book called I Trusted You Fully and Honestly, Speaking of Gendered Assault. And I come out in that book and in reading from that book as a sexual assault survivor. And one of the key pieces of recovering from sexual assault emotionally, mentally, spiritually is about grieving, is about facing what we've gone through and taking the moment to taking the time we need to actually be with our grief and mourn and process. Our minds need to process our losses. We need to process the things we go through, and we need to work through them, through the stages of grief, into the place where we can again have the sunshine and move forward. I've suffered the loss of many family members in my life. I read to you from my book, I Trusted You, about the death of my son in pregnancy, in childbirth, and my twin brother died. My parents have passed over before me. Just, people I have lost. My best friend, one of my best friends in high school, was killed in the summer between sophomore and junior year in a car accident, and it was absolutely devastating to be that age and to realize, at 15, 16 years old, that somebody my age could die. Actually just not be here anymore. She and her brother and another person that I didn't know were all, killed in the back seat of a car in a horrific accident. And just, that rocked me the whole summer. And it's necessary to go through whatever we're going through. So I don't know what you're going through at this moment with this pandemic. I don't know what you're going through in your life, in your family, with your friends, with your work, what you're going through economically. I know, I'm a little past 4 months into essentially pretty solid quarantine. And, it's getting on my nerves sometimes too. And I can enjoy my own company, but it's getting to be, this is hard. And a lot of people are out there not doing what science says, and the numbers are spiking because people aren't following the science and washing their hands and wearing a mask and socially distancing. And so, we're all going through this thing, and we all are looking at a lack of leadership in this pandemic and a lack of, really getting this thing under control. And it's costing all of us, and it's costing you in ways I may not be aware of, and me in ways that I may not be aware of, or you may not be aware of. But, we need to think about those things. As we sit here tonight, we have increased from 3.4 million known cases to 3.9 million. So we gained, 0.5 million cases, this 500,000 cases this week since we last spoke. And we've gone up from 137,782 deaths in the United States to over 143,000. So we went up more than 5,000 deaths this week, which is, a rate of close to 800 a day. And, in that space, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on for all of us in all different spaces. So I want to, again, affirm and honor the science. I want to recognize whatever it is you're facing. And I want to talk for just a minute. There's a little section in my book, that just a couple of pages that I want to read, and it's called The Problem of Evil. So when we are talking about, I have experienced manifesting, and positive thinking is of value. It should not be carried to the extent that Mary Trump is expressing Fred Trump Sr. as carrying it. It should not be carried to the point of a toxicity that gives one permission to be a malignant narcissist, which is what it sounds like he was. So I don't see him as a good example of manifesting or positive thinking. Positive thinking is not denial. Positive thinking is not facing what we're facing or facing what we're going through or facing our feelings. Positive thinking is, however, an anchor to hold on to in difficult times. But there is the problem of evil, right? There is why does evil exist in this world? So I write on page 8 in a section called The Problem of Evil. One of the things that has not been discussed in the law of attraction or manifesting literature is the fact that there are really bad things in this earth. Beyond natural disasters and illness, this pandemic's pretty evil. But beyond that, much of the evil and consequently much of the pain in the world is the result of human ill will. There is war. Humankind has a history of genocide, and genocide has been on the rise to the point where it has become an ongoing fact around the globe. We're not living with a human species that's being consistently honorable, kind, or moral toward each other. The world's not made up of John Lewis's in that kind of measure or number. It is a very different thing to be born into or find oneself in the midst of a war or an ethnic cleansing than it is to be born in a time and a place where there is relative peace and no one is trying to exterminate you. For those experiencing war or genocide, it is unlikely that winning the lottery is at the top of their wish list, right? Money sometimes is not what we need. If they were to know or become aware of these principles, safety in a life of peace might rank higher on their vision board. If we look more closely at the history of genocide and torture, we find most of the extreme examples of the human potential for manifesting evil. Hitler manifested evil in every sense of the words manifest and of the word evil. He turned his entire focus on the task of rising to power so he could murder the innocent. Whether or not he did it intentionally, he used every natural and spiritual principle at hand to bring about his destructive desire. The same can be said for other perpetrators of genocide and horror. Masses of people came together, pooling their collective focus and agreement, bringing about the Inquisition. The same kind of collective agreement and focused intent on the part of opportunistic perpetrators also contributed to the genocidal capture, enslavement, and abuse of African peoples and the imperialist conquest, dispossession, and genocide against native or indigenous peoples across the Americas and around the globe. For good or ill, human focus and attention can, has, and does shift the direction of history. The future is not predetermined. It's not a room already set with furniture already set in place that we just walk into. It's not predetermined. It's a steady collection of our presence making it, right? Of our current days making it. The evidence is that the axis of our experience on earth can shift because even just one very twisted human being wills with everything in him destruction. The same power, the same focus can be put to good. The fact that the individual, family, tribe, or nation can be affected by the malintent of one potentate or one of their next-door neighbor, or even of their family members, does not invalidate the fact that intention creates, and that individual intention is powerful, perhaps even more powerful than we yet realize. Yet, while it is spiritual law, the law of manifestation that undergirds the reality of this sphere, it does not judge the morality of that for which you are believing. No one, nothing stopped Hitler from putting all of his energy into his evil vision until people collectively came together to oppose him. No one and nothing stopped the collective evil of white supremacy and organized hate groups and terror groups coming up until the civil rights movement and that collective organized response that helped shift that and shifted it massively. John Lewis, in a quote they were playing from him today in one of the memorials, and hope, over the next few days he should lie in state in the Capitol building, and in his funeral there should be great honor paid to him in his funeral. But one of the things they played his voice saying and him saying was, he was talking about, if anyone tells me nothing has changed, he said, come from being the son of a sharecropper to being a member of the House of Representatives for decades, right? He said, walk a mile in my shoes and you'll see, they made a difference. The civil rights movement made a difference. There is work to be done. There is much work to still be done, and the very depth of the work that remains, of the struggle that's still necessary, is obviously being clearly shown to us in these past weeks and months, and has been over these past years. But we're more people are paying attention. But nothing stopped Hitler from putting all of his energy into his evil vision until people collectively came together to oppose him. Natural and spiritual laws work for the Hitlers of this world. They may explain why some politicians seem to be sort of Teflon and be getting away with things that everybody's like, why is a person getting away with that? That's not legal, or that's not our mores or our norms, but okay. So natural and spiritual laws work for the Hitlers of this world. Electricity works for the Hitlers of this world. Gravity works for the Hitlers of this world. Intention works for the Hitlers of this world. Whatever is truth about the spiritual realm, it didn't stop Hitler. But collective human will stopped Hitler. Whatever there is in spirit, it doesn't stop the forces of genocide. Human will can. Human will did, does, has, can do it again, still needs to. We have demonstrated the ability to unite against an oppressor. We can come to a different understanding about violence and oppression and change our future as a species and as a nation. But the law of manifestation makes no moral judgment. Whatever an individual, or more powerfully a collective, puts quite literally their mind to, will come to pass. Your envisioning power is that part of you that has the God-like ability to create. Yet, whatever you envision, there are others out there envisioning things differently than you. This goes a long way as an explanation for the conflicts in the earth. So it's important to recognize we are coming together with intention. And our intention is that the arc of the moral universe bend toward justice. Our intention is that America get back on course, that America and Americans begin to live our best creeds, begin to recognize our failings, repent ourselves of our failings, and do better and do right. John Lewis, oft quoted, talking about getting into good trouble. He was, I think twice, on the buses that were firebombed. He was a freedom rider when the civil rights movement was seeking to integrate interstate busing. They got on Greyhound buses and crossed from states in which African Americans could sit mixed up in the bus into states where they were supposed to sit segregated in the bus, refused to move to the back of the bus when they crossed those state lines, and then were, beaten, harassed, arrested, whatever. I believe twice the bus that John Lewis was on was actually firebombed and attacked. Not all of the Freedom Rider buses were firebombed. Things happened, but not firebombed. And of course, he was beaten with a nightstick by a police officer on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and on Bloody Sunday, and suffered a skull fracture and a concussion from that. Went through time after time after time, spoke at the March on Washington, as did Martin Luther King and Bayard Rustin, a gay man who was being who had been discriminated against within the movement for being gay, and then was brought forward again. And you should, if you ever get the chance to watch a film called Brother Outsider about the life of Bayard Rustin, you can also see him standing when Martin Luther King is making his I Have a Dream speech, and you should sometime listen to the whole speech, not one sentence from it. But Bayard Rustin's right here, John Lewis is over here. They both also make addresses that day. But you know, that's something that putting our minds to putting our lives to the work of creating justice. So wherever you're at tonight, whatever's going on for you, whatever your week has been, whatever your month has been, whatever your experience of this pandemic, whether you're an essential worker out there facing the pandemic, whether you're someone who's been laid off and is facing unemployment, or someone who's been laid off or fired and can't get unemployment, or someone who is blessed and fortunate to be working remotely or is being called back and then sent back home again, wherever you're at, whatever you're going through, I, as a teacher, am facing questions about what happens in September. You know, wherever you're at, whether you're facing questions about your children or grandchildren and what's happening for schools in September. Wherever you're at, and whatever's going on for you, however you're raced in this country, and whatever's going on for you in regard to racial justice or whatever action you're involved in taking to help, you know, whatever way you can in these questions, because we have a pandemic of racism too in this country. Wherever you are positioned, we're moving into a space we recognize our feelings and our emotions, and we empathize with our fellow human beings and their lived experience, our family members, our friends, our neighbors, our co-workers, our employers, our supervisees, wherever we're at in life, we recognize those around us. Our best humanity is in being the best human we can be, right? And in doing that, we must be aware and empathetic, and we must process our own griefs, whatever we're going through. I don't know if you've been sick. I've had students who have tested positive across spring term and across my summer term. I've had, I know people who have lost people. I've been blessed and fortunate not to be in those shoes at this time, but I don't know what's going on for you and yours, but I know that we're standing in faith together, seeking to create an image, a vision of coming out the other side, whatever that looks like, of coming out into the new space of winter turning to spring, of coming out somewhere into the space when this is over, without unrealistically speculating that it's going to evaporate. When this is over, I see you and yours still standing, still strong, still embodied, still healthy, still well. And I see me and mine in that position. I see the pandemic passing over us as we stand in faith and create that image. Our collective intention matters too, and must be added into the mix as a counterbalance to those whose collective intention is hate or is harm, to those who are out there killing people or violating the rights of citizens to protest. We must add our collective intention to see coming out the other side with a better America, having moved forward. Angela Davis speaks about the struggle. I read a quote from Tim Wise in a video I did for my class on social stratification recently. I've got a different playlist on YouTube for public sociology, and I read a quote from an author, Tim Wise, and he talks about just engaging in the struggle. Like, we don't know if we can make a difference. John Lewis didn't live his life saying, I'm not going to do this if I can't make change, right? If I can't affect a change or make a difference, I'm just going to quit. That's not the point. The point is that whether or not we can succeed at making change, engaging in the struggle makes us who we are. makes us more fully human. So with you, I join my vision and my intention for your health and wellness, for your economic success and survival of whatever lies ahead, of whatever effect this pandemic has on our economies. I with you form the vision for a means for the earth to survive and for the human race to survive on the earth, for the climate, for just leaders, for leaders who follow our laws and our norms and who come back into line. For I stand for the vision of the kind of leaders who stage a sit-in and sit down on the floor, not the chairs, but the floorboards of the House of Representatives to protest and to demand the right to try to bring a change to gun control laws when, you know, dozens of gay people have been shot up with. Nobody needs a semi-automatic rifle for deer hunting. So let's go in the space of creating a rational, kind image of America. For me, the best of us has always been our social movements, the labor movement, the civil rights movements, the abolitionist movement, Black Lives Matter, also, you know, women's rights movements and LGBT movements. And, you know, the movements have been and are the best of us. So let's go for that vision, for that America, you know, for that. Let's not give away our shot. My daughter played Hamilton. But let's, you know, let us help to form this more perfect union in our thoughts, in our visualizations now together. So just begin in this space to allow yourself to be aware of your breath. Now we're letting it all go. You're simply focusing on your breath. And as you breathe in, just imagine that you're focusing on relaxing. So with the in-breath, you're focusing on, and with the out-breath, relaxation. Breathing in, you're focusing on. Breathing out, the word is relaxation. So like a mantra, focusing on relaxation. Focusing on relaxation. Just focusing on entering in, going down, entering into a deep space inside yourself of relaxation. Let your abdomen relax. As you breathe deeper and deeper, let your belly expand and contract like the waves of the sea. Over and over, you're breathing in and breathing out. Focusing on relaxation, just letting go. And allow yourself to just be aware that there is warmth sweeping over you. Just the right temperature, not too hot, not too cold, but a wave of relaxation that starts at the top of your head, sweeps down through your forehead and face, down through your neck and shoulders and back, down through your lower back, your lower body, down through your chest, your lungs, your heart, your abdomen, your solar plexus, your stomach, your upper arms and elbows, your forearms, wrists, and hands, and your legs, your thighs, your knees, your calves, your ankles and your feet. You're letting go. You're focusing on relaxation. And as you focus on that relaxation, allow yourself just to see that which is your desired end result. Together now, we are creating an image of where you want to be a year and more from now. Just move your mind into the space of July 2021. And visualize with me that there has been a change. So as we count, we're going to count from 1 to 10. Now let's make it 1 to 12. And we'll move forward those 12 months from July to August, August to September, month by month, 1 and 2, going round the year, 3 and 4, fall, 5 and 6 in winter time, 7 and 8, and spring coming again, 9 and 10, and summer, 11 and 12. And in your mind, you are now on purpose seeing yourself healthy, strong, well, healthier even than 2020. See yourself July 2021, July 19th and 2021. See yourself stronger. Maybe you've exercised more or lost a little weight, taken your meds on time, been able to go off of some, whatever it is, whatever healthier looks like. Feel stronger, healthier, more well. Just imagine that you improve. You go from glory to glory to glory. There's a scripture verse about your youth being renewed like the eagle. I don't know that much about eagles, but see your youth increased, renewed, strength coming back in. Your body loves to heal itself. Human bodies love to get well. Visualize strength in yourself. Remember every cut you've ever had, the skin filled in, sometimes without even scarring. Bones that break, they mend, often stronger. See yourself stronger, better. Feel the feeling of whatever you've gone through, turning it around, you know. Sometimes your knees just get a little more fluid and they don't hurt anymore and things just get better. Just see your body strong and well. Next summer, summer 2021. And you are encircled again with that force field of protective energy. It's a deflector shield, and it deflects away all harm. And inside of that force field of energy, you bring in those you love and need the most. Your children, or your parents, or grandparents, siblings, close cousins, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whomever, bringing in friends, lovers, spouse, partner, whatever that is. The people who make your tightest, innermost circle, bring them into that deflector shield with you. You, like the Starship Enterprise, surrounded by shields that deflect everything the enemy can throw at you. You and they safe. Your shields strong, your shields hold. Strong and healthy and well. If your loved ones have had any health challenges, see them improving. Feel the feeling of health and strength. And now imagine into that space that there has been progress, real, true progress in the medical world. A vaccine that's actually safe and effective. Good, solid treatments. Real ways of reducing, of making us safe again. With me, imagine that across the year between 2021 and 2020 that people began to do right, to slow the spread by actually wearing masks, actually doing the things science said. See that people did well, people got less selfish. So many people who hear that wearing a mask is about protecting the other go, well, I don't have anything and I don't care, and they're too selfish to see that. But see people less selfish, see people getting a clue, see people caring that the old don't die, caring that the young don't get sick, caring for those beyond their own body, caring for their neighbors and friends and acquaintances and co-workers. See all of us caring in steadily expanding circles out into the realm around us. See every state in the Union bringing its case numbers down, not hiding them, not fudging the data, but actually bringing them down. See us acting like a first world nation with a modern health system and doing the right thing. And even that which doesn't feel possible, create it in your imagination anyway, in your agreement as part of this collectivity. Create the image of Americans caring for their neighbors enough to keep their masks on. I heard Bill Nye say, if your nose is exposed, you're not wearing a mask. See people covering their noses too. Being wise, being smart, being kind. See us rising to the best of ourselves, living up to the best of our nature. There is courage and wonder and joy in human beings as well. See an election, and whoever you vote for, whatever party you're part of, see true servant of the people leaders elected in large numbers all across the country at every level, local, state, national. See people who are not corrupted, who are not in it for their own pocket, but who are in it for America. Real patriots who honor those who have shed their blood, lost their lives in our military and in our movements. See real servant of the people leaders. Whatever that is to you, just don't see the faces or names, just see the character of the women and the men elected to public office this fall. A sweeping movement toward real leaders, undoing Citizens United so that dark money, as they call it, though that's racist, but hidden money can't be in politics anymore. An end to lobbyist money in politics, a real shift toward ethics in leadership. See a human race, including America and Americans, committed to caring for our climate, for our environment, for turning back the tide of harming the earth. Remember how happy the birds were this spring, the trees, the flowers, how bright and beautiful with less traffic, less cars. Feel the feeling of an earth that is passed on to our children and grandchildren and great-great-great-grandchildren with clean soil, clean water, clean air, and a temperature at which the human species and plant species and animal species can survive. See the Arctic beginning to refreeze. as we decrease that global climate change, that global warming. Allow yourself to see, join with me in envisioning that which is truth and right. See a shift, a change, an end to racism. In my studies, it became apparent there was a time that predated the color line, the race-based hatred, racism. A conversation for a different time, but imagine with me that human beings can come to respect and honor each other as groups and institutionally without bias about race or ethnicity or religion or able-bodiedness or age or gender identity or sexual orientation, or just see where we really come to see each other as human beings, both as groups and as individuals. Just see an end to police brutality. Imagine a criminal justice system that is not profit-motivated, servants of the people. Shift, change. Allow all those around you, see the survival, see their survival. See the economies, our economy, the economies of the globe, finding balance, and see you and yours having all you need all the way along. Food, shelter, clothing, medicine, safety, justice. And allow that in whatever measure your life touches the lives of others, that some of that spirit of the people like John Lewis is yours as well, that you also are a great American. In whatever sphere of influence you have, even if it's just you and the neighbor across the street, see you being ethical, moral, just, standing for justice, believing in the better angels of our nature, doing your part to maintain and restore our democracy and our health and our livelihoods. Just allow summer 2021, see the pandemic passing over us, and as it's gone, you and yours and me and mine, we are still standing, whole, well, strong, embodied, still alive and well, loving, being loved, provided for, and living in a free country where citizens of all colors have full constitutional civil rights, opportunity, equity, inclusion, judgment, justice, and righteousness. The Bible says to do judgment, justice, and righteousness is to feed the widow and the orphan and the stranger among you. See in America good to its immigrants. See children restored to their parents. envision with me our desired end result. Set your intention and your prayer, and just take a moment before we come back to again reach out and touch your concept of God or the divine or source or the universe, whatever it is to you. Reach up to something higher and take hold of that something higher for your personal well-being and that of your family and friends. There's a story where a woman is pressing through the crowd to reach, she's told herself about Jesus, if I can reach the hem of his garment, and it doesn't matter what your religion is. This is just a story I'm sharing from the Christian scriptures that says this woman is pressing through the crowd and she has said to herself, if I can but if I can touch him, I'll be healed. And so she reaches him and she grabs just the hem of his garment, and power goes out from him, and he turns and says, who touched me? And everybody's like, what do you mean? Everybody's touching you. And he sees her and he says, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Right now, imagine you are taking hold of the hem of the garment of whatever you perceive God to be or Spirit to be. And you're taking hold for yourself, for your feelings and thoughts, for your internal peace and stability, for your mental health and wellness. In this time, just take a moment of compassion for yourself. Whatever fears there are, whatever feelings you have, grab hold of something higher than you and say, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And allow there to be an inflooding feeling of help in time of need. I agree with you that you receive all sufficiency in all things, all help in every time you are in need. So let yourself feel again the sense of being encircled with that protective force field of energy, you and your loved ones inside it. And like a raging hurricane that passes overhead, see when this thing has passed over that you and yours, that your household is still standing, unharmed. I set that intention. You set that intention. We collectively set the intention that when these raging storms have passed over our nation and the globe, we find ourselves healthy, strong, well, and embodied with those we love and need most, healthy, strong, well, and embodied, fed and clothed and sheltered and cared for, living in true democracy, pressing forward in the cause of human justice, healthy, strong, and well, being the best human beings, the best Americans, and if citizens, and that word resonates, the best citizens we can be. We are citizens, not consumers. The American dream is not owning a home. It is liberty and justice for all, including those who are not citizens, coming back today as we count from 12 back to 1, back into this time, grounded, peaceful, following forward, healthy, strong, well, protected in that light, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you so much for joining with me in this endeavor and in this week coming up as our nation honors John Lewis and Reverend Vivian. Remember, as Americans, they're part of our heritage too. The greatness of our heroes includes our social movement leaders. Be well until next week at 8 next Sunday night. Also, my YouTube channel under my name, Reverend Dr. Nadine Rosechild Sullivan. This will get posted by sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. And also there are readings from my books in a growing list. The ability to contact me through my website for spiritual counseling appointments, and also some of my teaching on sociology. And I am just publishing now a book on birth control as a precondition of the liberation of women called Passing the Baton. And so I'll begin in a few, probably next week or so, to be reading from that also to my YouTube channel. So there'll be stories. I read stories and poems more than the sociology of most of it. But anyway, so be blessed, be well. Thank you for joining me. And I agree with you. I stand in faith with you that you come through this thing and I come through this thing. And we are on the other side. And the storms have passed over us. And we are moving forward with the greatness of who we are as Americans. Good night.